Hello there, Caliper here. This is a 2018 Ford F-150 and today we're going to be replacing front pads and rotors. I'm going to be lifting one side at a time. So let's get started on this.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100.
Okay, now we have access to the whole caliper and rotor. The rotor has a lot of, we got rust ridge right here. And if I were at a shop, I would measure that and see if I can still cut it to specification. I would turn this rotor instead of replacing it. But we have a lot of rust build up. We're not in a shop environment. It's better to just replace this rotor. That's the brake caliper. It is a big brake caliper. Since we're gonna have to replace this rotor, so we're gonna get the caliper out. There are two bolts holding it in place, one on top and one at the bottom, and we can just pull this guy out. So what I like to do, I like to move the wheel, the rotor, basically to see if it's free to move, and then from there I get my C-clamp and I just compress these pistons and see if these guide pins can move. I got a plane passing by, sorry for that noise. I'm outside. So we're gonna try to get a C-clamp and see if we can get this guy to move. But if we can take a look right here, you can do a visual inspection. As you can see, we still have plenty of friction material on this side, but the other side we really don't have much, but it's kind of dark on this side to see. But I'm gonna remove these and you'll be able to get a good visual. Before you compress the caliper, you need to go into the engine compartment and locate the brake fluid reservoir. Because the fluid is going to expand, you need to crack open this reservoir right here. Some of them don't have this cap with thread. Some of them you just gotta pull it out. So if it's the type of you pull out that you have, I would suggest you keep the lid on top of it, because brake fluid tends to attract moisture. You don't want moisture into your braking system. So crack this guy open because the fluid is going to expand and the air will need to be displaced, and it's gonna come out like that. So crack this lid open. Okay, this is where I place my C-clamp. I'm going to compress this just to see if these guide pins are going to move, and that's going to be easier for you to remove this caliper since you have the rust ridge built up right here. And also, this is kind of a controversial bit. Some people like to crack open the bleeder, just to, if this fluid is contaminated, they don't want the fluid to stay in the brake caliper. But me, I don't like to introduce air into the system, so that's why I'm gonna let the system intact without opening it, and I'm gonna let the fluid just go back on top. Once I'm done on top, encounter a little bit of resistance, I go back at the bottom just to make it even. Okay, make this even. I'm gonna compress the bottom one. Looks like that's enough. If we're gonna need to compress it even further, we can do this once the caliper is out. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to compress it further. Now that's enough for us to move, and these guide pins, they move, but not as much as I would like them to move. I think I might have a little bit of a stuck guide pin, and when you have a stuck guide pin, you're gonna have one caliper you're gonna have uneven wear on those brake pads, and I think we might have this. Once we remove it, we're gonna inspect them and see what we have, and we should have uneven wear. Okay, I'm underneath the car right now. There are two bolts holding this caliper in place. We got this bolt right here at the bottom. We got a lot of shadow. I hope you can see this right, and we got another one here on top. So I'm gonna remove this one. I have a long wrench. This is a 13mm wrench. It's really long, so I loosen this guy. I will loosen the one on top. So this one right here have the inside part of the caliper that's moving with it. So we're gonna need to hold this part, this plate, so that we can loosen this bolt. Okay, this part right here is what's moving. Every time I move this, every time I move the bolt, it doesn't allow me to loosen it. So I'm gonna hold it with this and try to loosen this bolt and get this caliper out. Now the two caliper bolts are out. We can slide the caliper out like this. These are the pistons, the two pistons here. Slide the caliper aside, and these are the pads. I got one pad. The inside pad is stuck in, and this pad moves a little bit. I'm gonna get a flat screwdriver to get these guys out. Okay, this is that first pad. Still got a lot of friction material left on it. It's really not that bad. And the other pad is really stuck. I got a stronger screwdriver. Let's see if this will do the work. This pad is really in there. Alright, this guy's out. Now, we have less friction material on this one compared to the other one. The one on the inside is definitely lower. That is the symptoms of a stuck guide pin. So I'm gonna remove those guide pins and make sure they're okay. And I'm gonna be lubing them as well. But these guys, the Midwest, really, that's the Midwest for you here. So taking a look at the guide pin that's on top, let's try to move it. So this guide pin is moved, no issue. I can't even remove it, and it's got lube on there. And right here, the guide pin that's at the bottom, as predicted, this is stuck. So I'm gonna have to fight this out. You can get channel locks or vice grip. Just try to move it back and forth, just twist it. That should get it out. And after that, I need to get the caliper bracket out. This is the caliper bracket right here. It's got two big bolts on the inside. They are 21 millimeters. Get that bracket out, and that should allow you to take this rotor out. The rotor is already moving. All you gotta do is get the bracket out, and the rotor should just come right off. These bracket bolts, they're not small, guys. You need a 1/2-inch drive. These are 21 millimeters. You need a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, so you need a one that's longer than this actually to be able to loosen these bolts. These bolts are big and they're really tight. So caliper bracket is out. The rotor can come right off. Look at the inside of this guy, all that rust built up. You almost have nothing here. Yeah, that's a replacement for you right there. Just replace it. Okay, I need to get this guide pin unstuck. This guy's still stuck. I'm gonna try to move it here. I need to get this boot out of the way. Don't damage it. Open it. Make sure the PB blaster gets in there. Okay. Tap it a little bit. I hope I won't have to heat this thing up. Okay, let's get these clamps out. These are the original ones from Ford. Get this one out. Okay, now they're all out. You get your wire brush. Just clean this real well. Clean it and spray some brake cleaner on that surface. And then place your new place your new clamps in. You want to make sure this is really clean. I still need to remove this guide pin. Just gonna let it sit with PB Blaster in it. So I want to get this real clean. I'm gonna spray brake cleaner, clean it, and then apply some brake grease on here and install the new clamps. Okay, these new clamps looks like they're quality clamps. So I'm gonna be using them. The surface is clean. I'm gonna apply some grease and slap this one in, and then try to put my pads in there, and this job's almost done. Alright, I had to invite our good old friend Fire to get this out. So I'm still gonna stay away. I try to stay away from the boot, the rubber boot here. And apply the fire right here. And apply the heat right there. I think I finally got this thing to move now. Somebody's mowing the lawn, so sorry. It's like a mowing the lawn festival this Saturday. Everybody just wakes up and just mow the lawn. Me, I decided to work on cars. Now, can get this guy out, give it fire, PB blaster, and then just keep moving it back and forth like this, and it should come out towards you. Okay, I got everything cleaned up. Guide pen is out. The guide pen is really clean. I wire brushed this guy. I wire brush everything where the clips are gonna be sitting. All I have to do right now is applying a little bit of brake grease on there. Just a light film of grease, okay, on all the areas where these clamps are going to be sitting. So apply a light film of grease over here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and install these clamps. Looks like very good quality clamps. Okay, snaps in. This one snaps in as well. Looks like they're well secure to stay in place. Okay, let's get this guy to snap in too. And here we go. Come on. Okay, so I got all of them in there. Clean them up. And with the brake pads, just make sure these things are just gonna fit in there. Just slide in, man. And let's try it. Yep, they slide in. Okay. Okay, these guys slide in. Make sure they're all dry. So what I like to do, also apply a little bit of grease right here for this pads not to get stuck. A lot of technicians don't like to do that because they say it attracts dust. I'd rather have dust than stuck brake pads. So just a light film of grease. You don't have to go crazy. Just a tiny. You can barely see it on there. Just apply a light film of grease. Just make sure you get brake grease and right here. So wipe your hand again. Get the excess of grease off your hand. Get a little bit of brake cleaner. Get the lubrication off. Let that grease aside. Then just mount these guys on there. I don't have a table right here. I'm doing everything on the floor. It's the best way to work, I guess, when you're still a little young. Okay. Okay, these pads are mounted in there. Another thing I do, I put a light film of grease on the backing plate, not the friction material. Backing plate. Okay. Somebody's mowing, so sorry for the noise. Get a light film of grease on the backing plate, nothing crazy. Okay, and then we're gonna mount everything. Okay, the new rotor is all clean. Clean it up a little bit with some brake cleaner. Then wipe it. Just make sure the surface is all cleaned up. Then do the same thing for the other side. I'm gonna use a better rag. Brake cleaner, clean it up. You don't want any grease on the surface of the rotor. That's why you're doing this. I'll do this again. Alrighty, the rotor is ready. And you need to clean the surface where the rotor is going to sit. And this whole thing off. And a wire brush would do a better job doing this. I'm gonna use a wire brush on the surface right here and clean it up, and then put the water in. Now the hub is clean. I cleaned it up with this wire brush right here. The rotor is ready to be installed. Water is in. It sits really well. Now I've got this caliper bracket with the pads already mounted on it. All I have to do is just mount it in, make sure it's lined up, and one thing that might help is try to screw in the bolt by hand using the socket. If you don't have a torque wrench and you don't know the torque specifications for these things, in this case, I don't have my torque wrench right here, and I don't know the torque specs for this caliper. So I got my 1/2 inch drive ratchet. I'm going to snug this real good, and I suggest that you do the same, because these bolts are really gigantic bolts. You need to snug this real well. Yeah, I'm gonna tighten them even further off camera just to make sure that they're tightened really well. Now, because I touched this surface right here, I'm gonna clean it off again. I can see some material on it, some grease. It's good to turn it around to see where you might have missed and where you have touched. So now you need to squeeze in these pads to make sure they can accommodate the caliper. Now, what I need to do, this caliper right here, I need to squeeze in these pistons further. These pistons are way too far out. I'm gonna use an old pad and use my C-clamp to squeeze them in, because they're not gonna be able to fit in there with those new pads, because the new pads are thicker. So you need to further compress these. If you take a look, these pistons right now are fully seated. I use my C-clamp with an old pad, squeeze them in one by one. You can see the wetness mark. One by one. I just do one a little bit, and I'd go do the other one just to make them even, because the pad just sits evenly on both of them. So right now, it's done. Now it's a matter of mounting the caliper back on there. It should fit. And then another thing that you really need to do after you mount the caliper is to go pump your brakes. You don't pump your brakes right now because this piston might just fall out. You don't want that to happen. So once you're done mounting the caliper in place, just pump your brakes. Every time you do one side, just pump your brakes. This is really important. Now the caliper is in, it is well seated. I'm gonna go ahead and pump the brakes. Look at this rotor. See how it's moving? It's because the pistons are not squeezing the pads yet. So you need to push, you need to pump the brakes until the brake is firm. And I cannot stress this enough. If you do this whole brake job and it's well done, you don't pump your brake pedal, and you're not gonna have any brake and you're gonna run into something. This is very important. You need to pump your brakes. You get one side done, pump your brake. You get the other side done, pump your brake. So in this video, I'm not going to do the other side because it's pretty much the same procedure. So this is it right here. I'm gonna go ahead, go inside, pump the brakes. Okay, I got my brake pedal right here. I'm gonna go ahead and pump the brakes. See, right now, to the floor. Now it's firm. So make sure you pump it until the pedal is firm. So we're gonna go back in there. You're gonna see how this rotor is seated now. And look at this. It still moves, but not as much movement anymore. This is better seated now. And this is how you do brakes on your truck. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm not gonna be doing this on the other side on camera. This is pretty much the same thing. I hope you were able to follow this well and do your own brakes. And on this note, Pierre Repairs out. See you in the next video.
As you fade